May we bow our heads, please, in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to host a Metro Council forum for District 5 and to play an informational role in the electoral process for this community. We invoke your presence in tonight's debate, that it may prove to be helpful in informing us about those who seek to serve as the District 5 representative. We honor the decision that each candidate has made to offer themselves in public service, and we ask your blessings upon them individually and our city parish collectively. We thank you for those who are participating in this process via live stream. Give us eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to feel, and minds to discern, so that we may make the most informed decision possible with our vote, decisions that will produce a better, more equitable, more unified community. Help us now to spend this time in the wisest manner possible. In the name of Jesus, our Christ, we pray. Amen. Good evening. I'm Fred Jeff Smith, pastor of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church and a member of Prophetic Voices, a group of concerned clergy intent on helping to inform and empower the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish. To that end, we have organized this Metro Council debate. This dialogue is being viewed via live stream on Vimeo and on our Shiloh Facebook and YouTube pages. It is also being covered by local media. Our purpose is to raise awareness of the positions held by these candidates for public office and the agenda they will pursue should they be selected to serve. Equally important, we want the candidates to hear from the community about what our concerns are and our expectations. Each announced candidate was contacted and invited to participate in this forum, and we're grateful for those who accepted our invitation. We recognize the right of any candidate to choose to not participate, but we are honestly disappointed by the efforts of some to stifle debate. Nevertheless, by the grace and the provision of God, this conversation will take place. We're grateful to Terrence Turner, who heads our audio-video ministry and has produced this event, to Tony King, who will moderate this forum, to the staff of the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, and to the many volunteers who have stepped up and helped us in facilitating this forum. Without your contribution, this activity would not be possible. Finally, note that Prophetic Voices is not supported by or beholden to any political party or any other civic or private group, financially or in any other way. We are clergy who have come together to collectively make our voices heard on those matters that affect our community and that we believe we can make a positive contribution. It is a vital part of our ministry to facilitate intelligent and specific dialogue that may be used to better inform them of the issues that the candidates seek to address. We represent several churches and several thousands of voters spread throughout East Baton Rouge Parish, including Metro Council District 5, and we feel obliged to serve. Again, we welcome you to this debate, and we turn you over to the hands of our moderator, Mr. Tony King.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's District 5 Metro Council debate, sponsored by Prophetic Voices, a faith-based nonprofit comprised of a collection of pastors and faith leaders in the city of Baton Rouge. I am your moderator, Tony King. The sole purpose of tonight's debate is to provide an open platform for the healthy exchange of ideas between candidates seeking to represent the people of District 5 on the Metro Council. The date for tonight's debate was selected in order to provide the voters with a sufficient amount of time to hear the platforms and ideas of each candidate in order to make an informed decision prior to the commencement of early voting, which begins this Saturday, March 12th. Each candidate in this race was informed of the date with options to make accommodations so that every candidate would be able to freely express their ideas and plans for District 5. Unfortunately, recently appointed Metro Council member Darrell Hurst is not in attendance for tonight's platform. Through conversations with both the production company and representatives of Prophetic Voices, and after accommodations were offered, Councilmember Hurst has declined due to the inability to find common ground with scheduling. If Mr. Hurst were to find himself available during tonight's debate, a seat is available for him as represented by the chair with his name attached. Tonight's debate is designed as the healthy exchange of ideas. Each candidate will have exactly 1 minute and 15 seconds to respond to questions posed, with an additional 30 seconds of rebuttal time if mentioned by name by a fellow candidate. Tonight's debate will cover 6 categories: Parish and Governmental Procedure, District 5 Economic Plans, Crime and Prevention, District 5 Infrastructure, Faith and Governance, and the last and final question, an open forum from the viewing audience. These categories were shared with each candidate prior to the debate tonight, that they might properly prepare in order to accurately articulate their vision for District 5. We understand that each candidate is passionate about their political perspective, desire to represent, and their love for their community. Though passions may arise, candidates are encouraged and expected to remain respectful of each other, as well as myself as the moderator. This debate is scheduled for 90 minutes. With that being said, I introduce you to our candidates here tonight. Political strategist, Mr. Daniel Banguel, and current school board representative, representing District 2, Darius Lanus. Before we start tonight's debate, each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for their opening platform in order to express to the voters who they are, what they represent in terms of ideas, and how they plan on serving in the seat, if elected, to represent District 5 on the Metro Council. Operating in alphabetical order, Mr. Banguel, you're first.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to share this platform with everybody who's viewing. I'm Daniel Banguel. I'm a community advocate, political strategist. I'm a graduate of Northwest State University, Southern University, A&M College, also recent graduate of Southern University Law Center. I understand this district growing up, starting in Glen Oaks, on Glen Oaks Drive, going to Forest Heights Elementary, watching my mom walk from Glen Oaks Drive to the Kmart that closed down. One of the things that I'm passionate about is I'm running for this seat is because I want people in our community to realize that you can be the norm instead of the exception. Many people who come from our community often are stereotyped into not being anything. So being a person that persevered, even though I had issues with discipline problems in high school, I still was able to go to college, graduate, and still be able to come back and provide for my community. That is why I'm running. I'm running because I want to make a difference. I'm running because I want people in the community to know that there's someone that looks like them who have had challenges, overcame those challenges, and was still able to be successful and productive. Being a person in this community, I've done many, many things in this community to help many people to be successful. I have been, again, a political strategist. I've helped many people win elections. Recently, there was a task with Virginia College where the college graduation was needed to be had for these students because the school closed down. So without any hesitation, I gave a graduation for 300 students, recruiting people in the community to help. You know, when 2016 flood came, When many of the resources was going to Healing Place, I organized 4 18-wheelers from across the country to bring resources to Zion City. Over 5,000 people were helped during the 2016 flood. I also created a reading day where I would bring in old judges who've been elected to be able to read to students so they can see how it is to see judges without them being at their current job. So I've been involved in our community, and I just want people to know who I am and my passion, and that's to serve this community. Your voice will always be my vote.
Thank you. Mr. Lanus.
Thank you, Mr. King, and to all of the listening audience tonight, I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to pay attention to what's happening inside of our communities. What I can tell you is this: I'm 34 years old, and in the last 3 decades that I've lived inside of District 5, not much has changed. So if you are a listener tonight and you're sick and tired of seeing the same thing inside of our community, I'm the guy for you. If you're sick and tired of hearing about crime taking place inside of our community, taking the lives of our young black youth, I am the guy for you. If you're sick and tired of hearing the same old political speeches over and over and over, when people come around to your door, knocking on your door when it's time for you to vote for them, and you don't see them any time around the year, I'm the guy for you, because at the end of the day, I'm about action. Before joining the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, we had one of the worst districts in District 2. I'm here to tell you tonight, in the last 3 years, we have the most transformative district in our entire parish. We have the very first aviation school. We have renovated Glen Oaks High School at a $30 million investment, which has propped up the property values inside of our area. And we have the very first early learning center inside of North Baton Rouge because of the work that I've been able to do. Now, has that work come easy? No, it has not. It has come with a lot of tireless nights. It has come with a lot of relentless pursuit. But this is what I do because I am committed to you. I am someone that went to school inside of my district from Forest Heights Elementary to Glen Oaks Middle School to Glen Oaks High School. And from there, I matriculated on to Southern University as well as the Southern University Law Center. And after I finished there, I went back inside of our schools and I became an educator. If you ask me tonight the reason why I'm running, because those same students that I taught years ago are now the same ones when I open the paper, I'm seeing that they're locked up inside of prisons, or worse than that, they're dead. I'm tired of seeing it happen every single day. I have a vision and I have a plan to move us forward, and I have no issues at all knocking on your doors and coming to talk to you. I think it is absolutely absurd to think that we have anyone that wants to serve inside of a seat that do not want to talk to the people, and that's exactly what things we have to try to get away from. I know you're tired. I'm tired for you. My name is Darius Landis, and I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight.
Thank you. As stated earlier, each candidate has received a list of categories of questions that we will address here tonight. The first question, or the first category, is parish and governmental procedure. The purpose of this category is to test the knowledge of the person seeking to serve District 5 on simple governmental procedure. It is thought that if a person does not know how to navigate simple governmental procedure, it will become difficult for them to be able to advocate for certain issues within District 5. That is why this category was initially selected. So with that being said, again, moving in alphabetical order. Mr. Banguel, you first. According to the Municipal Code, which has been updated as recently as February 24th, and aids process of procedure in our parish, what constitutes a quorum on the Metro Council?
7.
The answer is a simple majority.
Simple, yeah. That was 7 is majority.
Right, whatever that majority is. Thank
7.
you. Mr. Lanus, when conducting a meeting or public hearing, how long is each council member allowed to express their views on one particular subject without interruption?
If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 minutes, but if they have the floor, they should have 5 minutes.
The correct answer, you're right, 5 minutes. Continuing, moving on. We're going to move pretty quickly through this category because they're simple answers and they're very direct. So this category will move a lot faster than our previous categories, but I also want to send a message to those that are viewing us on the various platforms that we do have within our 6th segment a segment for viewers to submit questions that will be selected randomly for each of the candidates. So if you are watching and participating tonight, we ask that if you have something or if you live in District 5 and you would like to ask your question, post that question within the chat and we will select randomly for our candidates that chose to participate tonight to answer and address. Mr. Benguel, what are the 4 branches of East Baton Rouge Parish government?
We have the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and then we have a special branch that encompasses the district attorney's office.
That is correct. For those that are watching, we have the judicial, those that represent state constitutional offices, which Mr. Benguel was just mentioning, the executive, and the legislative. Mr. Lanus, which branch of parish government does the Metro Council belong to?
Legislative.
That is correct. The Metro Council belongs to the legislative branch of government within parish government. The executive branch, for those watching, is the mayor's office. The judiciary are your city courts and city judges. For both of you all, Mr. Benguel first, what do you see as the primary function of the Metro Council?
Allocation of a budget.
Correct. And Mr. Lanus, would you like to add to that?
I would say on paper it would be the allocation of budget, but I would say the primary goal or role for a city council member is to provide direct services to the citizens in needs.
Thank you. That is absolutely correct. Being able to legislate and navigate through the city's budget. As an additional question, are you all aware of what that city budget is currently for this fiscal year?
$1 billion is little over $1 billion.
Same, a little bit over $1 billion. It's the largest governmental entity inside of the city, with the school board being the second largest governmental entity inside of the city, with a little bit over $500 million.
Correct. That is correct. Now, thank you all again for your answers, very direct, in showing that you all have been studied and learned in simple governmental procedure in order to be able to advocate and navigate for those citizens within District 5. And the reasoning, again, for those watching, is because if there's a lack of knowledge in how to navigate through city budget, through how to get things passed and things like that, it becomes difficult, again, to advocate and push for the changes that many of you all have for your platforms and for those that are viewing see as the needs of the citizens of District 5. Again, we thank you all for participating tonight. And as we continue to move on, our next category are District 5 economic plans. It's no secret that District 5 is a part of North Baton Rouge, in which there's been special effort to inject some level of economic benefit for those citizens as well as businesses to be sustained. So during this category, we will give you all an opportunity to express what you see as your vision for and your plans for District 5 as it pertains to economics. Mr. Benguel. What? Hold on, I haven't asked. I understand, quick on the draw, I like that. Okay, here we go. Question 1, what do you see is the biggest economic issue concerning District 5?
Wow, good. You said the biggest. There's a few of them. Well, one of the things is the blighted properties. Is one of the things that stick out to me primarily. And then I would go into the lack of access of having viable businesses to accommodate the amount of people that live in the community. And so that would answer your question, what I see as one of the primary focuses of what sticks out.
Would you like to expound on why you see blighted property as a deep economic issue within District 5 a little bit more?
Well, specifically, 2016 flood. Many of these houses have not been repaired because they haven't been probated. So meaning there's no true ownership, which means there was no resources to get federal funding to rebuild these houses. So they've pretty much been adjudicated. And so the city has an adjudicated process where they go up for bid and the people are able to now purchase these homes and then put them back on commerce, which is one of the ideas I think we should be able to explore, especially with business owners in District 5, is to put those homes back onto commerce, especially if they're blighted. Also, we need to send a clear message if your property, if you don't want to keep your property on commerce, then you need to sell it. You know, so the blighted property is an issue with me right there, getting people knowledge and understanding what probate is and succession, letting them know if the legislative passed where they don't have to go to a lawyer now. Anything over $125,000, they can simply go get it, an affidavit, get the succession, file it in vital records, and they'll be able to have true ownership papers, and that way they can get those resources to put back into that home to now be able to put into commerce, okay? Second thing I'm looking at, these businesses. Many of these businesses are not represented by BRAC, okay? They're supposed to have the Start Battle Economic Development District, which means these businesses are supposed to have the proper education in how to be able to reinvest back into their business. There's a lot of business in District 5 that have not had proper representation by any type of entity that would be the liaison between the legislature and the business community, which I think that information needs to go back into those businesses where they get the proper understanding and the proper aid to be able to put vital resources in their business where it could be then attractable to people in that community. And also, my last point is making sure that we have a comprehensive plan inviting businesses to this community who want to be in this community. I have to also be very clear. We have to also have ownership with the people in the neighborhood. Listen, this is your store too. You can't go in and tear it up. But at the same time, we also want businesses who want to come into the community and offer incentive for them to want to service the people that's in the neighborhood.
Mr. Lanus, same question. Just to reiterate, what do you see is the biggest economic issue concerning District 5?
I'll say the biggest economic issue that is concerning District 5 is crime, 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 and crime. Crime affects education. Crime affects people's abilities to own and purchase property inside of certain areas. It affects the businesses that want to come into those areas and interject cash and cash flow. And it's a major hiccup for those that want to live in safe, sustainable neighborhoods. I think that the way that we begin to change this is, one, we need a crime prevention plan. That does not mean that we interject or impede on the work that the local law enforcement is doing, but it does, in fact, make sure that we are putting safeguards in place for our citizens so that they feel safe. When I walked through one of the neighborhoods inside of District 5, which was the North Forest Heights Housing Association, the Neighborhood Association, one of the main things that we talked about, and by the way, if you're listening to this tonight, Ms. Doris, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come inside of your home for a house visit. But one of the main things that we talked about was when they walk outside of their house, they see bullet holes inside of their cars. They see bullet holes inside of their houses at the top of their roofs. Now, when you are someone that is elderly or 60 plus years old, when you wake up in the morning, either you're retired or you're going to work and you're coming home, you don't look for those types of things to be an issue, but they are an issue, and they have remained an issue inside of areas like Zion City, like Brookstown, and like Glen Oaks for the longest. When you look at the economic effects of what it has caused us, when you look at the median household income for Zion City and Glen Oaks, it is between $16,000 and $18,000. Now, with crime being so bad, again, you won't be able to go out and find jobs, adequate jobs to come inside of that area. When you look at the schools inside of the area, the average school is a D or an F, which means that it is unsustainable as an unacceptable school in terms of school performance. And then when you look at the people who are living inside of those areas, they're walking around in fear. We have to be able to put safeguards in place so they feel safe when they walk outside of their homes, but also so they feel safe inside of the communities where they were raised. If we want to bring our neighborhoods back and bring the neighborhoods back to the hood, the way that we do that is we have to have comprehensive plans and we have to have a vision to move those people forward, and that's what I look to offer.
Thank you. Just to follow up on you all's specific visions for economic plans in this category, District 5 economic plans. Mr. Bankwell, you were speaking a lot about adjudicated property being one of the major issues that you see with District 5. The big question that I have is, how do you prevent, especially with home ownership being so key and vital to the creation and building of wealth, and with African American home ownership, which is a large percentage of District 5, how can you assure them that they will still have an opportunity to own homes and be able to start to build and develop wealth when there's an opportunity for outside investors to come through with the adjudicated property that we've seen so many others take advantage of in different communities around North Baton Rouge?
Well, It goes to the parish attorney's office. So there's a process. So those individuals that are going to bid on this process, we should be able to host that. We should be able to provide the same information to everybody who's in the community. I think the first preference should go to the people that live in the community who wants to buy it back first. I think that if we start empowering individuals in our communities to buy back our community, then we first take that step in revitalizing that community that we're talking about. And so to be able to keep these outside companies from coming in and trying to re-gentrify communities like ours, we need to first put safeguards in place. That's the reason why we elect people, is that we have people that are in positions to give those information. Hey, this is the bid process. This is how you be able to buy these vacant lots, these blighted properties. The problem I'm seeing is that many of the people who are able to buy these properties do not know about these programs. We have not had an affluent way of getting this information out to the masses for them to understand that they too can acquire this property. One of the plans I want to do personally is that I want to get involved with the clergy. Because see, we have a program where the nonprofits can get these properties donated to them. And these churches can fix these properties up and they can sell them to people who live in the neighborhood. If we have to get all these people involved in order for these companies not to come in and buy it and then sell it for a high price, and then again have obviously nobody be able to afford to buy it.
So just so I'm clear, what you're suggesting is being able to legislate the sale of these adjudicated properties. Correct. And to be able to legislate that the people of District 5 will be afforded an opportunity to be able to acquire them first. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Just like we do right now, I would like to see a proper notice go out. If this person is bidding on this property, there needs to be a proper notice to go out so individuals can know that they also have an opportunity within a certain amount of time to bid on the exact same property within a given amount of time, so that they can also be able to be a part of that process. And again, I would prefer, and I don't know how it would look, I would prefer that people from that community have first preference on buying the neighborhood that they live in. And so however that is, and however we can make that happen, if it's possible, I would love to be a part of that conversation where we can get people to buy back into the neighborhood that they live in, so people could take more pride in the neighborhood they stay in.
Okay, thank you. So for the record, again, just to state, you are proposing, if elected, that you would create some sort of legislation and pass it amongst the Metro Council that the citizens of District 5 will be afforded opportunities to be able to purchase that adjudicated property first.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. Lanus.
Yes, sir.
Just as a follow-up question on your initial answer on what you see as the biggest economic issue concerning District 5, you listed crime. Yep. The question that I have is, how can you plan to legislate that and legislate crime within District 5 to be able to reduce that in order to be able to, like you said, create a safer environment in order for businesses and people to live comfortably and safely and bring economic interests into District 5? How can you legislate that? How do you plan to legislate that is a better question.
Yes, sir. And honestly, the way that I would answer that question is not so much a matter of how do you legislate it, because the ability and the dollars are already there. The federal government has already released those dollars and come to the mayor's office as well as the police department, so the money is already there. It's a matter of priority at this point. And what I would offer is, one, when we talk about a crime prevention plan, one, we have to talk about how do you make people feel safe. We need gunshot monitors inside of every high crime neighborhood inside of District 5. And not just District 5, but every high crime neighborhood across the city. What does that do? That ensures that we cut down police responsive times whenever gunshots or whenever a weapon is discharged. Number two, we need license plate readers for every HOA and civic association across our city. How does that tie back into the guns? Well, the minute you can identify when a gun was discharged and where that gun was discharged, at every exit and entry point inside of these neighborhoods, those license plate readers can catch who is inside of the neighborhood and goes directly to every single resident that lives inside of that area. Whenever the police interject and whenever they come around and investigate, now our community is talking amongst our local law enforcement again, and we have just created a new revolutionized community policing model throughout our entire city. Number two, whenever something happens inside of our neighborhoods, we need anti-violence response teams going inside of every single one of those neighborhoods. And it cannot just be the people that simply live there. We need to bring the most holistic family supports that we have available to help those that are dealing with trauma and those that are dealing with loved ones that they have lost due to gun violence inside of those communities. I've already identified 2 of those associations, or 2 of those organizations, one of which being the Resistance and the other one being Against All Odds. Number 4, we have to go after violence inside of our schools. As it stands right now, we have no type of curriculum to address anti-violence inside of our schools, but that's where it's happening at the most. When you look and pay attention to where our kids spend majority of their time, 1 is at home, number 2 is at school. A parent can talk to that child all day long, but we need to make sure we have reinforced safeguards inside of our schools. That way, when those kids leave out of the safety of the 4 walls of their own home, and when they leave out of the 4 walls of their school and peer pressure sets in, that's when they can have those initiatives that they can rely on and go to. And last but certainly not least, the very first Guns for Jobs program. In the past, we have seen this happen before, where we have offered to buy guns back from people for $100. I don't know too many criminals, I won't say criminals, but I don't know too many people who are walking around with a gun that are gonna give their gun up to what they're using to protect themselves for $100. But when you can change their livelihood by telling them that we're gonna get you a job, and if we can't find you a job, we're gonna get you inside of an industrial training program for absolutely free, I think it changes the whole idea. Will it stop crime? No. It's not my job to try to stop crime, but it is my job to put preventative measures in place to ensure that everybody feels safe when they walk outside of their home.
Thank you. Moving on into the District 5 Economic Plans category. Mr. Bangwell, what plans do you have to attract and sustain businesses in their presence in District 5, especially being that according to the most recent statistics, that the median household income for District 5 is $35,000?
Well, the problem is this. District 5 has the issue of poverty. And so we have to first wage war on poverty and not people. The bottom line is this. In order to get businesses where they're able to serve the best needs in the community, is first of all, you have to collectively organize them all together. There's no organization of all these businesses together to get the resources needed for these businesses to be able to be sustainable for the people that are living in the community. Which means, what I mean by that is that in order for our business to be successful, they have to also have the same amount of resources as other businesses that are in other parts of the parish. And so to be able to do that, again, that's to get them all collectively together so that they can all be able to benefit or have their understanding education on how to be able to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Lanus, same question. What plans do you have to attract and sustain businesses in District 5, especially being that according to the most recent statistics, list the median household as $35,000?
Yes, sir. And in certain parts of District 5, it's actually lower than that, but I'll take a question for face value. This is what I would say. For as long as I can remember, we've been trying to recruit grocery stores to come into our district, but they don't want to come. And right now, the most reputable grocery store that we have inside of District 5 is a Shoppers Value. But if you know anything about Shoppers Value, it is simply a rebranded Piggly Wiggly. And if you are sitting here and telling me tonight that that's the only reputable grocery stores that are willing to come inside of our district, I just simply don't believe that. And what I will also offer is say this: we don't have to go and beg a Rouse's. We don't have to go and beg a Albertsons. We don't have to go and beg a Walmart to come inside of our areas. What I would propose is this: for the very first time inside of our city, that we create something called cooperative associations where the community owns the grocery stores. Imagine being a community member when you walk inside of a grocery store, and if you don't see fresh produce, at that monthly meeting that you get to attend every single month, because you are part of that association, you get to voice your concern saying, hey, we need fresh produce, or hey, this person did not greet this person walking in. That's power you cannot buy. That's power that a private company cannot offer us, and I think it is about time that we get back to doing what we do best, and that is governing our own communities and neighborhoods, and we offer collective community ownership agreements to people that live inside of those areas. Because I can tell you this: if we can do it in District 5, we can do it in Scotlandville, we can do it in South Baton Rouge, we can do it in Brookstown, we can do it in Zion City. But first, somebody has to have the vision and the idea to put it forth and make sure that it happens. They're already doing this in New Orleans. They're already they're doing this in Arizona, in Minnesota, in Washington, D.C. They're doing this in every other progressive city but Baton Rouge. And if you had to go a step further, as it stands right now as a capital city, Baton Rouge is 25 years behind every other city in the southern region because we're not putting our best foot forward in terms of coming up with ideas that are innovative that can move our communities forward. Because first it's going to start with a grocery store. Then District 5 is going to get a movie theater. And then we're going to start having our own eateries. And again, our communities are going to be the ones that are going to own that. And the benefit from that is that all of those profits go right back inside of our neighborhoods, benefiting the people through beautification projects. That means we're no longer relying on the government in order to take care of things for us. Our communities are doing it themselves as we did in the 1950s and 60s.
Can I just provide just a little clarity on my point very, very quickly? Everything revolves around organizing, okay? In terms of the question you said, how are we going to create a better economy? And everything comes down to organizing. And what I mean by that is this. Many work release programs that are programs from East Baton Rouge Parish Prison, many of those programs are businesses that are getting credit for having individuals giving them another chance. One of the things I want to do, and I want to make sure I'm very clear on this, is that I want to make sure that these same programs that are allowing these individuals to work for their company while they're in jail will also allow them to work for their company once they've been released. The problem we're having is people in our community, they have records and they're being penalized for mistakes they've had in the past. They have paid their debt back to society. My point I mentioned earlier about organizing the businesses in the community is that the businesses in our community are more likely to give them an opportunity to work and feed their family because they know them. They're from that community. And when we incentivize the businesses that are currently here, they're then able to provide opportunity for individuals who do not or cannot get a job anywhere else based on their background or whatever it may have been. So I want to be very clear in having a collaborative hub of businesses where they're being fed information and resources just like they're getting benefits of other districts. And I just wanted to be clarified.
And I'm glad you said that. Just to ask a follow-up on you all's ideas. Great ideas, and really appreciate the passion in which you speak of them. And in a perfect world, it would be very easy to be able to make that happen. Unfortunately, you would be serving with other members of other communities that you would have to convince to allocate funds to be able to take care of that or start that or to be able to incentivize that, as you say, with some sort of, I'm assuming, tax credits. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well,
okay. So the question I would ask is, how do you plan on actually being able to win over your fellow Metro Council members, if elected, to be able to incentivize this solely for a group of people that maybe their constituents wouldn't benefit from?
Well, sometimes you have to remind people the position is to collect the benefit of the entire parish. So although we represent our individual districts, it's the betterment of the entire parish.
How does
and so how you do that is that you have everything is based on relationships. As a politician, you have that give and take, which means I need to know what are the things in your district that you're more likely to advocate for. You need to know what's in my district that I want to allocate for. So there has to be some give and take there, which means there has to be a relationship that has to be built among colleagues to let them understand that this is what's important to me, just like that is important to you. How do we do that? We have to first have common ground. And when we found the common ground that all 12 districts share, then we're able to explore conversations that may be specific to District 5 that they may not understand. And I have a understanding to know that when you show people, instead of you have to show them how this is going to benefit the entire parish. Because as Mayor Broom has said, the district rises and falls together. So how is one area successful than the other? So I have to show them, hey, by incentivizing District 5, this actually promotes the entire parish. By raising the minimum income level in District 5, which means that the entire budget for the entire parish is now raised, which means there are more funding to go around all 12 districts. So it would be important for you to invest in our community so that we can invest back into yours. So you have to basically paint the picture and be able to work with people against the aisle. Because there's a lot of people I'm not going to ever agree with, but I can also compromise and I can understand where they're coming from and I can work with them.
Can I
Thank
jump
you.
in on this?
Well, actually, I had a
Okay, let's
follow-up.
go.
I had a follow-up for you
Yes, sir.
about your plan, and that is that the co-op is a dynamic idea that we've seen implemented in other cities, as you stated, and you are encouraging members of the community to be able to own these establishments.
Yes, sir.
Again, my question, given the median household income that's listed, and of course, various parts may be slightly lower than that median household income of $35,000. How initially would these co-ops be created, started, and maintained with that current economic status until it gets to that point where members of the community will be benefiting?
Well, so first I'll say there's several resources that are already being offered. So community block grants are one. When you talk about shared responsibility in terms of cooperative associations, it's almost set up like with a DEMCO. So the residents that utilize DEMCO are actually the ones that actually own DEMCO, and it comes in three different shares. You have a share C, share B, and share A, and it comes at different prices. But when you're talking about starting off a cooperative association, we're not talking about raising asking people for $250 a month, because we know they simply can't do that. We're talking about it as low as $50 a month by across a stream of, let's say, 15,000 residents that live inside of the area. And it's completely up to you whether or not you want to buy in, because whether or not you buy in, you still have that added resource inside of your community, whether it's a grocery store, or it's a restaurant, or whether it's a movie theater that you can frequent on a regular basis. Because just remember, the dollars that you put back inside of those cooperative associations are circulating right back inside of our neighborhoods. So just because you can't buy in does not mean that you lose. In fact, it means that our community can still win. But it also gives our community the opportunity to have direct ownership of the facilities and the restaurants and the eateries that we're utilizing on an everyday basis. And I just want to come back to something that Mr. Baguette was talking about. This is what I can tell you. Since serving on an elected body, the school board, there have been several battles that I went into under the guise that we need to do good work for every child across this district. And what I can tell you is this: there are just simply some people that just don't believe and see the same vision as you do. And I believe this to be true on our Metro Council, because what is comparatively the same or historically the same is that the people who have historically run our school district are the same people who historically have run our city council. So where the buck ends and begins in terms of dilapidation, in terms of what's not happening that is correct, that does not end and fall with us, because we don't have the numbers to sustain and say that we have the ability or the control in order to change those things. I am of the guys that when we can flip these boards, which is why redistricting is so important right now, when we can flip these boards and minorities inside of our district have the collective power to finally vote on things that can directly impact their neighborhoods, that's when we're going to get the change that we're looking for. And I think that cooperative associations begin that process and can be the catalyst for our community moving forward. I just think that we have to be on the same page, and I think we have to have the same alignment in terms of getting these things done.
Thank you. We're going to touch on redistricting coming up later. I don't want to give a spoiler alert. And again, thank you to everyone that is viewing this on the various social media platforms, Vimeo, the Shiloh YouTube page, as well as the Facebook page. We do have a category coming up at the latter portion of the debate in which viewers will be allowed an opportunity to submit questions that will be randomly chosen. If you have been compelled to submit a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, and it can be selected and asked of the candidates that have chosen to participate here tonight. The third and final question for the District 5 economic plans: how will your plan guarantee, because you've made several guarantees and many plans for the constituents of District 5, but how will your plan guarantee not only the people of District 5, but also the businesses moving into the area? How can you guarantee them that as the property values increase, that you can prevent gentrification, prices raising in rents that would then displace many of the residents of District 5? How can you guarantee that with your plan, that won't happen?
Is it for anybody?
No, it's Mr. Bangale first.
Well, I mean, the only way you can guarantee it, if we don't have the legislative body to agree with it, then we go to litigation. Simple as that. There's other ways to get things done other than a simple vote on the council. I don't believe, or let's put it this way, I have hopes to believe that it should never get to the point where we can have honest conversations with all council districts by the betterment of the entire parish. The benefit of having other companies come in to buy and regentrification an area that they have no ties to would simply be a disservice to the entire parish. So hopefully we have individuals who have enough common sense to be able to agree to legislation that will prevent companies from coming in and doing that. And if they cannot commit to doing that, then we just have to settle it out in the court system. And so that's simply the answer to it. I mean, you can't agree, then we'll allow the law to aid us into getting that done.
Thank you, Mr. Lanus. Same question. How can you guarantee that with your economic plans and vision that the people of District 5 won't be displaced once the economic value continues to rise with rising rents and displacing many of the residents in District 5? How can you guarantee that?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, and that's actually the interjecting answer I was going to give earlier, but you stopped me. However, this is what I would say. This is how you begin to stop it. Currently, right now in District 5, our sitting interim councilman is tearing down blighted property. This is the problem. There's no vision for what happens after you tear that blighted property down. And you know what happens when you tear down blighted property inside a low-income area? That's when onset gentrification begins to set in. This is when developers come in, they look at property that has the potential to grow, they look at the investment that's come inside of the area, i.e. Move Baton Rouge and the Plank Road corridor funding that's getting ready to come in. And when they see these low-income properties, the first thing they're gonna say is, let's buy it right now. We can get it low, we can sell it back high. It does not come back to our communities. We do not own these properties anymore once those properties are given up, which is why I wish our interim councilman was here tonight so we can actually have some dialogue about that, because anytime you are giving up or anytime you are opening our community up for something that's like that makes us completely susceptible to losing property, that is an issue. There's 3 things that the U.S. Constitution guarantees every single person as sure as you live and die on this earth: that you're going to have federal protection for life, liberty, and property, which is why it's hard to get rid of blighted property. People can tell you all the time about blighted property, how they're going to clean it up, how they're going to get rid of it. It's hard to get rid of blighted property. And if it wasn't hard, we wouldn't have so much blighted property as it stands right now. We've seen our land banking agency, Build Baton Rouge, try to come up with a significant understanding of how they can clear this property, and nobody's been able to do so. I think the way that we do that is we have to have our community at the table, understanding that, 1, if we're going to invest back inside of these properties, what does this look like for us as a whole? But 2, to ensure that, again, I do agree with you on that one, Mr. Baggell, we need to write a first refusal. Before anybody has a right to come in and say that they want to purchase these properties, it needs to come back to our community so that we can put it back in commerce, so we can make the profits off of it, and so that money can be circulated back inside of our areas.
Thank you. Again, we thank you all for participating in tonight's debate. This is a healthy exchange of ideas, and we're grateful that you all made time in your busy schedules to be able to join us here, and also to allow the citizens of District 5 to be able to hear your plans and vision for the community that you are seeking to serve. We are continuing on with our next category for tonight, and that is infrastructure. As we know, traffic is a major headache across the parish. Airline Highway at Greenwell is a daily log jam, and it runs directly through District 5. My question is, what can the city do to prevent the rise of traffic along Airline Highway as it runs through District 5? Mr. Bangel, you're first.
Well, many of the reasons why it runs through that is because most of the time the interstate is jammed, and so people find alternative routes to get home. First of all, we need to synchronize these cameras. I mean, we have no camera synchronization in all parts of North Baton Rouge. All parts are not synchronized in terms of when the moving traffic is going. Also, we're talking about in the infrastructure, the president just allocated over $1 billion to Louisiana in terms of infrastructure. That money has not been dispersed specifically throughout the parishes among the Louisiana. However, I would like to be a part of the conversation when the money is dispersed to East Baton Rouge Parish. Does District 5 have amount in that budget to be able to deal with some of the issues that we're currently facing in terms of street repairs, in terms of traffic, and seeing how they have a plan to deal with the traffic specifically in this community. So I do like to be a part of that conversation. A lot of these conversations is just an overflow. We have traffic problems specifically East Baton Rouge Parish as a whole. And so it's going to be all over the entire parish at certain times of the day. There's also traffic overflow in District 2 when you get off the interstate by the Metro Airport. So you have people who knows the landscape of Baton Rouge. But one of the things I do notice is a lot of people that drive in from Baton Rouge that live in other parts of the parish, and they drive home. And so a lot of this traffic are not necessarily people who live here. They're people who work here from other parts of the city of Baton Rouge. And so one of the things I would like to suggest is that another thing that kind of ties back into the other question is how do we sustain businesses, is that, I mean, if you're going to make a profit here in Baton Rouge, I do believe there should be some type of way where you should have, where some of that money is retained in the city where you work. Again, I've seen that model somewhere before, but all that's tied into monies and taxes that goes into our infrastructural budget as a whole. So again, not to be, to ramble, but again, I would like to see the entire infrastructure is to see how this, the loop that's being tied in by College Drive, how that would affect other parts of the parish, because it all is synonymous with one another. So I would like to see if District 5 would be able to be a part of the conversation with the money that's going to be allocated from the national level.
Thank you. Mr. Lannis.
Yes, sir.
Currently in Glen Oaks, many residents speak of the vandalized or missing street signs or roads that are in need of major repair. How would you solve these issues while serving if elected to represent District 5?
Well, I tell you this, one of the major issues we have in terms of road congestion is that you have entirely too many cars on the roads, and those roads have not been properly constructed in a way that benefits the growing population of East Baton Rouge Parish. And what I mean by that is, in the year 2022, you still have surface roads that can only hold 2 lanes of traffic. It's just simply not enough. If you go to every other major city that we're talking about in the Deep South, you're going to find, it's not even a major city, but every other capital city inside of the southern region of the country, not just the southern region, but all across this country, every single one of them either has a loop or they have some type of train system. As it stands right now, the governor of Louisiana has already allocated about $25 million going to looking into creating a North Baton Rouge passenger train system that can go from Baton Rouge all the way down to New Orleans. I think that's going to be a game changer, and that's something that I would definitely get behind. It's definitely something I would definitely try to help champion with our governor, but also I think it is just beneficial for our citizens. Imagine not being able to use your car and you can hop on a train that would take you to your job anywhere up and through North Baton Rouge or across our city. I think that's game changing because you're cutting down on your gas, so now you're saving money. You don't have to use your car as much, so that if there are any potholes, it gives our city some time to fix those potholes whenever they are reported. But also, let's say you can't find a job inside of Baton Rouge. You can hop on a train and you can go down to New Orleans on a 1.5 hour to 2 hour commute, find a job and bring resources right back inside of our community. I think that when you talk about congestion and things of that nature, we have to start thinking outside of the box, because one thing for sure and 2 things for certain, even if you get on the road and we say, let's take traffic light synchronization, you're gonna have to still use those same roads every single day. And those things are not gonna change overnight, so the problem is still gonna exist. But let's say we had a passenger train system that could help alleviate traffic, keep people off the road, so we give our city an opportunity to help repair what those streets look like, and also help expand what those streets look like. Also, I think it's game changing, not just for people in District 5, but I think it's game changing for people all across this parish.
Mr. Rangel, there are some residents in District 5 that complain that some drivers don't respect school zones during school hours, putting kids at risk in District 5. If elected, how would you ensure public safety of the children of the district while keeping violations to a minimum?
Well, simply, the issue is that Glen Oaks is an unincorporated portion of the parish, which means there's no city patrol, which means that the law enforcement comes from Skylandville and it comes from Central, which means there's no substation in Glen Oaks community. I propose a Glen Oaks substation in the community so that they can be able to identify and see all these traffic violations. Because right now, you can speed up and down Glen Oaks, who gonna come and stop you? Ain't no police officers coming, because there's no substation there. So that means these people have to basically respond to calls. So putting that substation there and giving these people tickets. I mean, if you're going to hold the consequence of the traffic law. I mean, if you're going to speed up and down the school zone, then you need to be held accountable for doing that. If we can find resources to put law enforcement into the schools, then there's certainly resources that we can put law enforcement to watch and see if someone is speeding through a school zone. It is a consistent problem. I can understand isolated problems, but if there's something that is repetitively happening, then we need to have someone that's clocking these cars down the street when they have school hours so that we can put these people either in jail or put these people, give them a ticket or tow their car away. Let them know that this is a serious situation. These kids should not have to worry about if they're going to get hit by a vehicle. And also, my next point, if I can just have a point of clarity on the other infrastructure, because this is all infrastructure, is that I also think that resources for infrastructure is to fix the sidewalks. I mean, we talk about public safety, but we have sidewalks that hadn't been finished. So kids are forced to walk in the street. So I don't understand the concept of putting a stop sign when you don't have a sidewalk. So what the kids gonna do? Walk in the street in the morning to connect to the other side of the sidewalk, which means you're putting them in safety issues. So how about let's go back to the bare basics and finish the sidewalks so the kids don't have to walk in the street in the morning, specifically on Glen Oaks Drive, because it stops right there at Forest Park Drive, and it stops and then it connects back at St. Mark United Methodist Church. So the kids walk in the street every morning and can get hit by a car every single day. So let's go back to putting those resources to fix the sidewalk. Then we can then monitor the men and people who are speeding in the school zone so that we can put them and hold them accountable.
Can I rebut?
Thank you. I was actually getting ready to ask you the same exact question, which is, some parents are complaining about drivers not respecting school zones during school hours, putting kids of District 5 at risk. If elected, how would you ensure public safety of the children of District 5 while keeping violations to a minimum?
Well, first, let me preface this. I support local law enforcement. I respect the work that they do. But I reject the notion that we need to put more police officers inside of a community because they feel as though somebody's running a stop sign. I think that there are other preventative measures out there that we can do. I think one of which is the license plate readers. If we had license plate readers inside of the neighborhoods that we're talking about, we can directly get the information we need without having to insert and bring in more officers. It's literally as simple as capturing somebody's license plate as soon as they get ready to leave out of a neighborhood. I think another thing that we can talk about is putting speed bumps inside of those areas because we have no speed bumps inside of the Glen Oaks neighborhoods. I think that we can interject and put in more stop signs. And if those people continue to do those things, again, those license plate readers will catch them. But again, there's no way that I could sign off on saying that we're going to put police officers inside of a poor neighborhood with poor people who have to go to work every single day and who already feel like they're already being over-policed. And what I mean by over-policed is, let's say they're going to work and they're trying to make ends meet, but they may not have that inspection sticker purchased right on time. It may be a month past the date. Well, guess what? Those people get pulled over, and now you have more fines, and now you have more fees. Well, then how will you eventually be able to get that new inspection sticker or be able to get your car up to date the way it needs to be? Again, I support local law enforcement. I respect the work that they do. I just believe that there are more preventative things that we could do as a community before we go all the way off the bar and say that we need more people or more law enforcement coming inside of those communities. Because as it stands, these are already high crime areas, a lot of these places that we're talking about. So they already have police officers inside of those areas. It just means that we need to be more preventative and we have to be more protective with safeguards that we're putting in place.
That's actually the perfect segue for our next category, which is crime and prevention. Both of you all have listed crime and prevention as major aspects and the foundation of both of you all's platforms. So with that being said, the first question, Mr. Bangel, goes to you. Statistics nationally have crime up all across the board, and here in our city is no different. The murder rate has increased, especially over the past year. In your opinion, what do you see as the three root causes of the increase of this particular crime, and what measures will you take to help decrease the murder rate here in Baton Rouge?
Well, the problem is that it's a holistic issue. Again, it goes back to the foundation of education. I mean, you're talking about a community that's in poverty, a community that has failing education in it, a community that has high incarceration, high recidivism. Yes, it simultaneously impacts economic development and all types of things. So it's holistic. So we can't just focus on one thing. We have to focus on a whole plethora of things, which I believe it needs to start with the education piece. And most times when you see communities that have lack of resources in education, you see a spike in crime. And so one of the things I would like to propose, I believe we just need to go back to the drawing board in terms of how do we systematically educate the people in the community. Enough is enough. We have to have a collaborative agreement with the clergy, with the judiciary, with the law enforcement, with the community partnerships, with any particular stakeholder to come up with a comprehensive plan to deal with this crime. We cannot have isolated organizations trying to come up with a plan that's comprehensive. Every single entity, including the business community, have to come together at the same time to develop a plan in order to be able to alleviate crime. One of the things I've heard many people say is placing certain instruments to be able, that doesn't deter crime. Crime often shifts. So if I spend $80,000 to put a license plate reader, then it'll shift into another area. So that means I now have to take another $60,000 and put over here, where here's the issue, where we just built specifically on Hooper Road, we just put 2 neighborhood apartment complexes in that neighborhood, and the kids have nowhere to go and play. There's no investment in the Breck Park that's on Sharon Hills. There's no investment in the Breck Parks on Cadillac Street. So that's number one, there's nothing for the youth to do because they're simply walking around. And if I put a camera in the community, that's not going to stop anybody from robbing the homes that are there or shooting the houses. You know, Walmart have cameras all over the place, and people still steal out of the Walmart. So having a camera in the neighborhood ain't gonna stop nobody from stealing or shooting at it. However, if we add these programs, which is these collaborative programs, it has to have everybody at the table, which means the politicians have to work together from across the aisle, from the legislative branch to the judiciary branch. Oh, that's number one. Number two, I told you again, like I said, going back to the education piece. You know, failing education leads to high incarceration and high intrusion and high recidivism. Until we realize that we have to wage war on poverty. Specifically, I would like, being that Mr. Dare, he is on the school board system, having programs in some of these school systems that promote job readiness. Some of these schools need to be able to promote these jobs that are ready to go, so that when you look at statistics from 18 and 25 that are committing some of these crimes, most of them don't have education. Most of them have dropped out in the 8th grade or high school. So we need to incentivize or encourage better foundation for the education piece so that we'll be able to.
Can I rebut?
Actually, I was getting ready to ask you the same exact question, Mr. Lanus. Statistics nationally have crime up across the board, and here in our city is no different. We've seen the murder rate increasingly high over the last year. In your opinion, what do you see are the 3 root causes of these increases, and what do you plan to do particularly, and what measures will you take to decrease the murder rate here in Baton Rouge?
So this is a multi-layered question.
Multi-layered.
Because I heard my name brought up a few times. So for instance, jobs is the main issue. Mm-hmm. It's 2 people that you don't have to worry about crime with. People that are at work or people that just got off from work because they're tired and they have to get ready to go to work the next day. So the one would be jobs. 2, I heard the notion that we need more programs inside of schools, but we literally just passed one of the most comprehensive policies in EBR's history, which is our Bright Futures program. And what this program does, it ensures that every single child that graduates from an EBR school from 12th grade, they will graduate with a diploma in one hand and an associate's degree in the other. For the first time ever, this has never happened. In fact, when the U.S. Secretary of Education came to this city and he visited Glen Oaks High School, which is also in my district, he said that this needs to be the model across our country. So I say that to say this is already working. Now, on terms of the license plate readers, what I find is funny about this is an initiative that has already taken place across our city. Our chief of police is already pushing this. The federal government is saying that this is something that we should do, and this is something that also our mayor's office is supporting. So to say that license plate readers will not work is to say that everybody that I just named must be out of their mind for trying to do something to help prevent and stop crime happening inside of our areas. My question is that I would ask is this: if we're not going to use license plate readers, what are we going to do? Because simply using the same old talking points we've been using for years is not going to stop crime. Keep talking about jobs without actually offering people jobs is not going to stop crime. Keep going inside of neighborhoods and placating to people as though it's going to stop. That does not stop crime. Crime is not going to stop overnight because it took years for us to get to this problem, so it's going to take years for us to walk out of this problem. But it does not mean that we sit on the sidelines on our hands in the meantime and we don't put up any type of preventative measures at all. Because when you talk to the people, at least the people that I've talked to inside of District 5, which has been thousands since this race has begun, every time I tell them about the crime prevention plan, they say, thank you. Finally, somebody is doing something inside of this area to try to help us fix the crime issues and problems that we're having. Because I can tell you what can't happen. We can't go in Zion City and put a chain around Zion City to try to block it off from Glen Oaks. We're not dividing communities. I don't believe that. I don't stand for that. The problems that we have is we're not talking enough amongst each other, but we don't have a true vision to put plans up that actually have comprehensive measures that can help fix a lot of these communities. And it does not just have to be District 5, because District 5 would simply be the catalyst. If it works here, it can work in every single low-income neighborhood all across this parish.
Thank you.
Can I rebuttal to that?
I will give you 30 seconds,
Okay.
Mr. Bangel.
Well, to your point, I never said, I said crime moves. So if we spend the resources to put a driver's light reader in a neighborhood, if it moves to another neighborhood, then we have to also spend more resources to then put driver's light readers in another community. I've also talked with the chief that we simply have had a limited budget, even on gunshot monitors. And so we haven't had a dedicated funding to be able to pay for these particular technologies that you've mentioned specifically in communities. When we haven't had a foundation such as an association where neighborhoods are now coming together collaboratively, talking and being able to identify vehicles and people that don't live in the neighborhood. I was talking about simply the foundation of having people collectively together to be able to identify some of these things before we start to add advanced technology where we have to then find sources to be able to pay for and sustain it.
So I would simply say, does crime not move right now? I mean, when you talk about it, so let's take Zion City, and let's say we put gunshot monitors and license plate readers inside of Zion City. And let's say crime moves over to Brookstown. We do the same thing there. Because we've just shown that the license plate readers and the gunshot monitors actually work, because the crime is no longer inside of those areas. Now we can actually pinpoint where crime is taking place. That's the whole point of a crime prevention plan.
Have you ever speeded in Baker? Have you ever speeded in Baker and they send you that bill and your license plate, you still speed? Because they send you about $10, $15. You gonna still, my point is, just because they have a camera that's get your license plates to tell you that you will speed, that don't mean you finna pay the ticket.
So let me ask you this question.
So there has to be some accountability.
One second.
So my question is, what accountability are you gonna have people that you just said that were low in poverty, that you just said that could be able to afford to be able to pay these tickets? How are you going to be able to enforce, because you don't know who's driving the vehicle?
You're right.
I could be driving a vehicle. That don't mean that that's my car. You just sit to the person that's driving like, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm going to allow you a very short period of time
Yes, sir.
a few seconds to be able to give a quick response so that we can move on.
I'll be very fast with this. If I followed that notion, I would fire every single police officer in our entire city, because crime exists here. We have police officers that are supposed to serve and protect and keep everybody safe from crime, to follow that notion. The bottom line is this, and I think I made that very clear when I first started talking. It's not my job to stop crime. I don't have a degree in crime. That is for our local law enforcement. What my job is to do is to put up preventative measures that supports what the local police or law enforcement are already doing to make sure that we're preserving life. That is my major thing. That's the reason why crime prevention is my #1 thing on my platform, because I want to preserve life. I hate waking up every day, opening the paper up, and I'm seeing another young black face. I hate turning the news on every single channel, and you see another black face that has died.
And that's a perfect segue for our next question. Homicides in the city have a consistent connection, particularly in District 5. Quoting from the Advocate staff editorial on January 21st, 2022, quote, "Oftentimes these homicides involve young black men, particularly hard hit where the city's 70802 and 70805 zip codes. These neighborhoods have had economic challenges for decades, and gun violence and other crime have homicides in District 5. And where do we stop changing this narrative?" That is the question. If it is acknowledged that these crimes and murders are all consistently continuing to be the same types of people in the same types of area, how, if elected, will you help to change that narrative and to be able to prevent the young black citizens of, as you stated, in District 5 from continuing to suffer at the hands of this violence?
Well, I mean, it starts off with, again, a plan. It starts with being consistent. I truly believe that we have to have a systematic approach to this thing. I believe that we have to basically go back to the old traditional, it takes a village to raise a kid. Going back to the way, because now you have to understand, you have now grandparents raising grandchildren, you have more high-teen pregnancy where there's no guidance, with having basic moral concept with the adolescent, and also, again, having a conversation where the churches are more involved instead of on Sundays and Wednesdays, having a programming in place for the youth. Again, I have specifically said, when you look at the statistic of the people that are committing the crimes, typically they're around the same age. And typically these people are shooting each other that they probably have been friends with in some form of life. This is nothing new. They're not killing people that they don't know. They're killing people that they know. People they grew up with, people somehow the way they jealous of, and all this again comes down to the basic principle that you grew up learning in your basic household. And I believe going back to the basic training, specifically having model programs in neighborhoods that teach these particular programs, not perpetuating teenagers that have sex, however, having teen parenting classes in schools that are in those areas that these parents, these teachers, these teenagers understand how to be able to raise their children in a way that their children could be successful. So I want to first start off looking at how to systematically approach that situation. Also, just specifically right now, is that here's the issue. We only want to involve law enforcement when it's our child. And then we don't want to involve law enforcement if it has nothing to do with us. The bottom line, if something happens right now, we're gonna call law enforcement because that's the person that is designed to protect and serve this particular community. We need to be able to hold individuals accountable specifically to serious repeat offenders. We have a high recidivism. So my thing is, what are we doing to treat the mental health issues in our community? There is an abundance of mental health issues that is simultaneously with the individuals that are committing these crimes, specifically from the ages of 15 to 25, that we have not cracked into. There's not enough mental health services providers to be able to handle the amount of people in this area that need the services. Everybody has mental health problems. We all just cope with it a little different. We need to be able to have those mental health services. As I said before, it's poverty, it's holistic, which means even if education is doing what it's supposed to do, like he said, which I'm not doubting, that's a good job. Because so much stuff is going wrong, you have to do everything simultaneously. So while he's doing a good job on the school board with the program here, we need to do a good job over here in terms of the economical structure. We need to do a good job over here in terms of access to the mental health facilities. And all those things have to come together at the same time so we make an impact in the neighborhood.
Same question to you, Mr. Lanus.
Mr. King, if I had the answer to that question, I promise you we could change this world tomorrow. But I will not sell you fool's gold. We have been dealing with this subject for decades upon decades upon decades. And I think I made it, I know I mentioned it earlier. It is not the job of a city councilman to try to go out and try to stop crime. That's why we have local law enforcement in order to do so. What I do believe, though, is we have to approach our students from a place of love. We have to approach them where they spend majority of their time. That's two different places, as I said earlier, at home and at school. So that means when those kids are at school, we have to be willing to go to those parents. For a lot of those parents, they don't have the accessibility or transportation to come out where a lot of these programs are. Let's say that we did have a mental health facility. How can they get them there? So we have to be willing to reach them and go back to those communities where these things are happening at every single day. Things don't change until people see change. So if I walk outside of my house every single day and I say I live in Zion City, I'm gonna keep using Zion City because it is a neighborhood that needs a whole lot of attention, just like Brookstown and just like other parts of our community. But let's say I walked outside of my house every single day, and then I look at TV and people are saying, we got these amazing programs, but they're on the other side of town. How does that change what's happening right now inside of my neighborhood? It doesn't change it at all. Not when I gotta walk down the street where gunshots going off at all the time, but when I gotta walk into this dangerous, crime-ridden area, it doesn't fix the problem. We have to approach people where they are, and we have not done that statistically or historically inside of the city. Not in a way that will help shape and change the way our neighborhoods begin and the way that they feel and the way that they look. What I can tell you is this. I serve as the executive director for the 100 Black Men of Metro Baton Rouge. So literally every single day that I wake up, my job is rooted in helping to sustain the lives or preserve the lives of young African-American Black men inside of our community every single day. We need structured programs, much like one that we're offering right now called Respect for Life, where we teach our young men, one, to identify and know who you are when you walk out of your house. Two, knowing how you can use education to uplift your life. Three, if you're coming from a single parent household, how do you work with a parent that is a single parent? Four, when you encounter local law enforcement, how do you get home safe? Because you going to jail, we can fix that. But when you lose your life and to local law enforcement because there was an altercation that took place, that's something that we can't fix. These are the types of programs we need inside of our community. Not to say that I'm just simply propping up Respect for Life, but we don't have enough programs like these that show our young Black men, our young Black ladies, how they can be more sound citizens and how they can better themselves and how they can identify or self-identify with what it is to be Black and live inside of America. We don't have programs like these, and we need more programs like these to not only fix the problems that we're dealing with, but also to prevent the detriment of what's happening because these programs don't exist right now.
Thank you. Continuing on in our crime and prevention category, the BRPD and the police union have maintained a very public feud in recent years. Coincidentally, this is when the spike in homicides really began to take off in the city. What plan would you introduce to help these entities coexist to better serve the community? Mr. Bangel.
Well, first off, the union leadership needs to respect the position of the chief of police. Number one, start there with respect. Number two, they need to get on the same page because what confuses a lot of individuals is that the people that are inside of the police union also works for the police chief. So it seems to the average person that it already looks like a contradictory scenario is that you're basically going to another entity to boycott your boss. And so that don't even look good to the person that don't even live in Baton Rouge, number one. And so they need to first get on the same page because they're all part of the same organization. The union and the police department, they all work for the same organization. So number one, making sure they get on all on the same page and of respect. Number two is actually coming up with a viable solution where it does not involve singling individuals out. I don't know if any one individual can prevent who gets shot on a given night. And I believe it's easy to point fingers because it comes with the job title. But I believe if you're a person that believes in change, I believe instead of pointing fingers, you're someone who's going to come to the table and provide viable solutions in order to limit the amount of crime. Let's just be very real. There are not enough boots on the ground based on how many people in the city of Baton Rouge, based on how many law enforcement agents to be able to control the population that we have. We are severely understaffed. We're severely underpaid. And many of the police officers don't live in the city of Baton Rouge. And so there's a lot of conversation that the union and the police department can have where they can figure out how to staff individuals that may live in the community so that community policing can actually work, where people can identify with the officer because that officer is someone that used to live in that neighborhood. So until they're able to flush out the politicalness and come together and do the betterment for the parish, that's the only way we can see a result. Because while you got two feuds going over, which is, to be honest, is just really crazy. Because I'm sitting here looking at a man who is the boss of the people that's in the police union. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna talk about your boss in public in front of everybody and then get mad. So they need to work that out amongst each other and come up with a solution to help all of us instead of this political beef that they seem to be doing. That's a distraction to all of us who want safer communities.
Thank you. Mr. Lanus, same question. The BRPD and the police union have maintained a very public feud in recent years. Coincidentally, this is when the spike in homicides began. What plan would you introduce to help these entities coexist to better serve the community?
Well, first, I think it's a dangerous game that's being played more or less on the end of the police union because of the image that they're projecting inside of our city. One, let's be very clear. While we do have a crime-related issue, these are isolated incidents that are taking place. We are in a time of gang culture. And the murders that we're talking about are literally assassinations and hits that are taking place throughout our city. So, very first thing we need to do, we need to put a ban, a citywide ban on all trigger switches. A trigger switch is a small device about 1 inch in size that can turn a pistol into a fully automatic handgun that has been terrorizing our community. Number two, I think that we need to bring back investigative hearings before our Metro Council. We haven't had one in years, and I think that now we are past time to start doing investigative hearings back before our council so council members can ask direct questions to those who are in question. And when I say those are in question, I'm not talking about citizens that are coming before us. I'm talking about local law enforcement that may be in question, or things that may happen across our community that our city council has the direct authority and control to ask those questions about. But three, I think that we need to consider hiring a public safety commissioner that can house every single local law enforcement agency along with our fire department under one umbrella, and that person would give direct recommendations to our mayor and letting her know what needs to be the moves moving forward in terms of public safety around our city.
Thank you. Our next category is the faith and governance category. This one is a little bit easier. It's not necessarily policy, but it's more to allow the citizens of District 5 to be able to understand what governs your personal decision-making, which would lead to better decision-making if elected in District 5. So our first question for the faith and governance category is, Mr. Bengel, what church do you belong to, and how do you plan to apply the practices of that church to the betterment of District 5?
I attend Beacon Light of Baton Rouge, and one of the principles I would like to apply is just the old scripture, spare the rod, spoil the child. I believe going back to basic principles of instilling the children of the church concepts of respect and basic principles, I think should be priority of getting those individuals back into a church home. So one of the things the church does is they go out and recruit, they go out and evangelize to the neighborhood about coming to the program, coming to church to see the different programs that the church is offering. So one of the things I have as a person of faith is making sure that we actually do what the scripture actually says. And sometimes you have to actually discipline your child, you know what I mean? And so I want that to be expressed as in holding your child accountable, whatever that discipline may look like. Holding your child accountable to whatever it may be that they may be doing.
Mr. Lannis, same question. What church do you belong to, and how do you plan to apply those practices of that church to the betterment of District 5?
Absolutely. I attend church well within my district is the United Christian Faith Ministries under the direct leadership of Dr. Mark Ellis Sr., and it reminds me of a book that he gifted to me, and it's called The Man That God Uses by Henry and Tom Blackaby. And in reading this book, it teaches a lot about how do you overcome adversity? How do you, when your back is against the wall, you still find the energy to hold on to your faith through God's grace? And that's the energy that I bring to my community every single day. Even when there's nobody there to show up with me, if I'm the only person there doing it, the relentless pursuit is going to be there, and that's what I want to show our community is that even when people don't show up, even when governmental agencies don't show up, we still have the wherewithal to get things done inside of our neighborhoods, which reminds me of one of my favorite Bible verses, which is, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead. You can pray all day long, but God gives you free will to put in the work and show him how much it is that you want to see your conditions change. So we've been praying for a long time. Now it's time for us to put the action in place that God has given us, because he's wielded us the energy to do it anyway. And that's the message, and that's the type of belief and idealism I want to bring back to my community and show that we can do.
And for a point of clarity, I may have misunderstood what you asked. Are you asking specifically what principles that have been instilled in me from my church that I have that I want to represent to the constituents? Is that what you were asking?
No, what I was asking was, how would you plan to apply the practices of that church to the betterment of District 5 if you are elected?
Okay, all right, I misunderstood. So Beacon Light has a program specifically geared to students after school programs. What I would like to do again is have a partnership again with the school board and also making sure that students that attend Beacon Light also have resources to be able to have assistance with helping the children who don't have the assistance at home. And so they have child care as of right now, but they also have after school program. They also have a program where they actually call on Zoom to help with the students who may not be able to have a ride to the church. So what I would like to do is implement an after-school program specifically with the churches in District 5 to assist with those parents who are unable to help their children because they're working 2 or 3 jobs or they don't have the education requirement to help them, but give them an additional resource to help their student matriculate through to graduation.
And just for clarification, the reason for the faith and governance category is because this debate has been sponsored and put on by Prophetic Voices, which is a nonprofit, faith-based community organization. And so just wanting to see how you all would use your connection and regardless of whatever your faith is in your daily life in terms of governing if elected in District 5. And also for those that are viewing, you still have one more category in which we will have the viewer selected questions. If you want to pose a question, you can submit it in the chat and it can be randomly selected for the candidates who have chosen to participate tonight to answer. So the second question in the faith and governance category: how do you plan to cultivate relationships with churches in District 5 with the purpose of improving the overall quality of life within the community? Mr. Bengale.
I've already begun that process. I've actually had a public meeting about right before the pandemic. I had every single pastor from the community have a town hall meeting right there at Antioch, Full Gospel, Bishop Eugene Harris Church. I believe that every church have a understanding to serve the community that their church sits in. So it's not to deter any mission that God gave that particular pastor for that particular ministry, but I do believe that because your church sits in this community, there is a area of interest where all churches that sit in District 5 can collaborate on the betterment of the community. So I've already had a meeting before with about 8 pastors, and it's on Zoom and all that stuff. You can see it on Facebook, to have a conversation as to what we could do to work together. And many of the pastors in the community specifically have said the consistency, having a meeting here and there, what is that going to do for the overall? And so what I want to do is bring those pastors together, simply like Prophetic Voice has, where they have pastors from various churches, and bring them together, identify the issues that the community needs, and see how collectively these particular churches can join resources to help the needs of that neighborhood or that community. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be dedicated to doing, and bringing the faith-based community along the way.
Thank you, Mr. Lannis. Same question. How do you plan to cultivate relationships with churches in District 5 with the purpose of improving the overall quality of life for the residents of the community?
Well, I don't think that the idea or the identity of what churches can be begins and ends in District 5. I think that we have to expand outside of District 5 and all across this parish. And I think that we need to start having conferences where we can come together, an entire faith-based community across our city, something that we've never seen happen before. Whether you're white, black, indifferent, everybody comes together for one day of faith right downtown in a neutral location where we can all come together and really dialogue about what's happening around our city. We can hold roundtable discussions. We can provide vendor educational pieces where people understand what every single church throughout our community has to offer them in terms of educational services, faith-based services, therapy, spiritual therapy, mental and physical therapy, the things that people need on an everyday basis. And the way that we ensure that we do this is that we unify and collaborate with our city to ensure that we have transportation. So imagine that we had CATS transportation, bringing the people who may not have transportation to these types of events. I think that utilizing our citywide efforts and our governmental entities in that way, I think it puts us in a much better place than we are right now. But it allows us to all be under one umbrella, under one roof, having a direct conversation about what's truly happening across our city and what we need in order to move forward.
Thank you. And for our final question in the faith and governance category, how does your personal faith help you in your everyday decision making? Mr. Bangel.
Growing up in church, I've been in church my entire life. My faith is what moves me, my faith in God. So, and I think that guides me through the decisions that I make. I believe that because of the relationship that I have with God, because of my mom instilling those principles in me when I was a child, bringing me to church even when I didn't want to, it never left me. And so being able to have the person, or being able to have a faith where I'm doing something to honor God is more important than trying to honor man. I believe the moment I was delivered from people's decision, I believe that's when I found my true purpose. And not worry about what people thought of me, but worry about what God placed me on this earth to do. And that was to serve, and that was to be a leader, and that was to be able to help individuals get to a place where either you are or further. And so I think that has guided me on everything I've been able to do, my prayer life, and just having a strong family life. And I think that's what it has cultivated me into being a great decision maker, having the discernment to know what people I need to deal with and what people I should be dealing with. People that's faking it to make it, and people that's genuine. God has never in my life have given me a vision without giving me provisions to make it happen. And so that has instilled in me. So every project I've ever was able to make happen is because God told me how it was going to happen, gave me the people around me to make it happen, and that's exactly what's going to happen in District 5. I know the people that God has placed in my life to be able to make these things happen, and so that's the way it's going to happen for me, and that's how my life has been guided and rooted.
Same question for you, Mr. Lanis. How does your personal faith help you in your everyday decision-making?
What I can tell you is this: every single waking moment, I thank God. Even when I'm on this stage, I'm having conversations with him frequently about the things that I should say and what's going through my mind. What I can tell you is this: I'm not supposed to be here tonight. I'm not supposed to be here because not only the neighborhood that I came from, but statistically, I'm not supposed to be on this stage here tonight. But through my faith, I've been allowed the grace from God in order to navigate certain windows. I make no, I don't shy away from anything that I dealt with throughout my life. I come from a single parent household. Well, in fact, my mom became so depressed at one time because she's bipolar that she turned to drugs. So I was living inside of a home at one point where I had 4 siblings and a mother that was dealing with a drug addiction. So, you know, in being inside of those poverty or crime-ridden neighborhoods, because while I grew up in Glen Oaks, many of the neighborhoods that my family lived in was no different, from Eden Park to Easy Town. But what I can tell you is this, that every day I wake up now, I have the perseverance to know that I'm doing God's work. Everything that come out of my mouth is God's words, and that's what I pray for every single day, that I'm used as a servant in that capacity, no matter what happens. And I hinge on something that Dr. Martin Luther King said in one of his famous quotes, and I can't paraphrase it correctly right now off the top of my head, but he, in so many words, said, if a man is not willing to die for something, what are you living for? And I'm here to say tonight that there's not one thing that I'm not willing to do for my community to ensure that we get everything that we should have had a long time ago. So whether that means that I put every single thing on the line in order to ensure that we get it, I'm willing to do it every single day 10 times over, because I've seen what we can do when we work together. At one point in time, they said we could not reopen Glen Oaks High School. In fact, this was after the flood of 2016. And they said, you know what, we're gonna close this school down because we simply don't have the funds. And what we did was we made a lot of noise, and we didn't just do it alone. We partnered with McKinley High School, with Capitol High School, and with other neighborhood associations. And what we found out is when we come together as a community, as a class fist, there's not one fight that we cannot tackle together. And today we have a $30 million investment right back inside of one of the same neighborhoods that they would rather to cast off and say they were not worth it. If we can do it there, we can do it anywhere inside of this community. That's what my faith has taught me, and that's the reason why I love God so much.
Thank you. As we have stated previously, there were 6 categories. We've gone through 5 of those categories, and the 6th and final category are user-submitted questions for those that are viewing the debate tonight online on our various platforms. These questions were selected randomly, and they're still coming in, so for those who are viewing, you still have a chance to submit your question for it to be randomly selected. Again, we thank you all for participating tonight, both of the candidates who chose to make time in their schedules in order to be here tonight. We understand that it has not been easy. You all have been giving a lot of yourselves to the community in terms of trying to inform the voters properly on this important decision, and we thank you all again for giving of your time, and we won't take up too much more longer so that you all can get some rest and be able to continue your fight and push to represent District 5. The first question that we have user submitted says, driving through Shenandoah, you can count how many crossing guards, and this is for Mr. Bangel, how many crossing guards you see versus the one in predominantly black schools. You mentioned about the sidewalks and about things like that. What can you do, even though that is mainly a school board issue, what can you do as a Metro 5 council member for District 5 to be able to ensure that those people will have, those students, the young people of District 5 will have that protection, the same as other members, as you stated, across the other districts in the parish?
That's a good question. Well, what I would like to do is I would like to work with Darius as our school board member and work with him to make sure that the resources that are from the school, see that there's enough allocation of resources to be able to see if we get more crossing guards. I'd love to work with our school board member as your next council member so that we can have a partnership with the school system. I believe the first term Mayor Broom had a joint collective meeting with the school board and the Metro Council. And although the school board has its own entity in terms of its own budgetary constraints, and so is the Metro Council, I do believe there are certain partnerships that we can have together to be able to accommodate those issues. Here's my thing. We have to first make it a priority for people to make sure it's a need, okay? So if we don't know, or there's no one saying, hey, there's not enough crossing guards, then we would know if there was a need to have more crossing guards. So that's the whole point when I said about the whole neighborhood association and about organizing the people in the neighborhood. They'll be the ones to let you know, hey, these are the immediate problems that are happening in the community. And so then me as the District 5 representative, I'm gonna call the District 2 school board member and ask him, what can we collaboratively do to make sure that we put more stop signs and more crossing guards at these stops where these children can have more safety.
Thank you. We have another user-submitted question, and this one is for Mr. Lanus. It says, could you please have Mr. Lanus clarify his comments regarding the current councilman's position on blighted properties and identify who actually benefits from his opponent's position? Basically meaning current interim council member, Mr. Hurst, who is not here tonight.
Correct.
He's basically, this user is saying, could you please comment and clarify who actually is benefiting, or who you believe is benefiting from council members Hurst plan of the blighted properties? Who's actually benefiting, or who you believe is actually benefiting, and does this benefit the people of District 5?
Well, I'll start with the latter first. The people, District 5 people won't benefit from it as long as onset gentrification sets in. And that's gonna happen because we have no plan if blighted property is simply being tore down. But honestly, let's take it a step back. And I think that Mr. Baggell hit on it a little bit earlier, because a lot of the properties that we're talking about that are now deemed as adjudicated or blighted property, this happened back in 2016. In fact, some of these properties are still sitting on insurance claims that still have not been cleared yet. So we're talking about taking properties from people inside of areas that still have a direct right to own it, but still are dealing with insurance claims and things of that nature. But I don't want to go too far off the rail. The bottom line is this. What happens inside of low-income communities happens all the time. And if you think that I'm not telling you the truth, I want you to go into South Baton Rouge near LSU, where a lot of these properties inside of old South Baton Rouge were deemed as adjudicated or blighted. Now developers have come in, they have put in brand new apartment complexes and living facilities, and now they are benefiting from the profits that the people that have there, or the money that they're giving to them, and that money is not being directly circulated back inside of our community. I think that we have a much better plan that we can come up with in terms of ensuring, one, that the right of first refusal goes to the people that live inside of those areas, and two, that it is a thorough and fair bidding process. Nobody's trying to say or lock out any developers that want to come inside of the area, but it needs to be a very fair process, which brings us to another part of what we should be talking about is the amount of contracts that minorities have currently inside of East Baton Rouge Parish, which is very, very low and abysmal. On average, we're doing over $1 billion in contracts a year, yet minorities make up less than 5% of the people that are receiving these contracts. And a lot of these contracts are going out to developers. And you can't tell us that there are not qualified people, licensed and bonded people inside of this community that look like you and I that could do the same work. We're simply not doing the due diligence to ensure that, one, we identify who those people are, and two, that we're bringing them inside of the fold in a fair and equitable process. I think that that's where we need to begin. But going back to your question about blighted property, I think that it is a dangerous game to play when you're tearing down people's property, but you have no plan for what you're going to put back there. It's going to be a vacant piece of land, and when those developers come in, they're going to see it as an opportunity to grow up businesses that are not going to directly impact and influence our communities.
So just for the record, what you're saying in terms of the clarification that was asked of by a user-submitted question is that you believe that taking advantage of these adjudicated properties does not directly benefit initially the members of District 5. Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. We have another user-submitted question. I believe this is for the both of you all. We'll go with Mr. Baggell first. Regarding the city of St. George, it's no secret that there have been several lawsuits, and some in the St. George area of town seeking to try to incorporate and break off from Baton Rouge. So what are your thoughts on this incorporation, and why are those your thoughts?
Well, my thought on St. George is the whole point of St. George was to have a better school system, was the whole point. They wanted better schools. And in order to have better schools, they have to create a city, because you can't have two school districts within the same city. So the whole point of the city was for school. That's number one. Number two, if forming another city is going to put a disadvantage on the city you're breaking away from, then there's no point of having another city. If you're not willing to take all the expenses along with you, then you simply created a detrimental effect to the city that you're leaving. It's like you get a brand new city with shiny new buildings, and you have no type of responsibility in terms of the people that also contributes into the retirement system, into the works of public works of the East Parish. So I don't agree that St. George should be breaking away, specifically based on why he said they was breaking away in the first place. Now, if they want to find a way to collaboratively work with those that are in leadership to be able to create a better place for their kids to have education, or have a better space for being able to deal with the crime, and I think that's an effort. The problem having is that every time there's a problem, people want to go and start their own thing, and basically spend more resources trying to start something fresh than simply correcting what's not working. So all the resources that are taken to form another city, just take those resources and fix what is the issue. But when you get to the underlying issue and you realize that the issue really isn't the issue, in terms of you looking at how the city is cut out, excluding African Americans, specifically those that make a certain amount of income, it all seems contingent that this city intentions is not what it seemed to be from a perspective of what they're portraying to the masses. If you want your own city, then you're going to take all the bills that's going to come with the city. Now, here's the thing. We've annexed all the important places where you can get revenue from. So if we've taken it and annexed it into the city, you basically finna tax those people at a high rate just so that you can say you have your own city away from the people you trying to get away from, which, who the people they trying to get away from?
It's a good question, and we appreciate your answer. But so in essence, you're not for it.
Oh, I'm not for it.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't want that to be
Oh, no,
lost as well.
I was leaving that open-ended part like, who,
Yeah,
but no, I'm not for it.
No. We appreciate your explanation, Mr. Lane. It's the same question for you.
Yes, sir.
It is with the city of St. George. What are your thoughts on it, and why are those your thoughts?
Be simple about it. I don't support the incorporation or creation of St. George, and I think that the supporters of St. George, while they think that they had a great victory with what happened with the election, I do believe that shows that there's a lot of potential there to flip what has definitely happened there. And I think it starts with the word annexation, annexation, and annexation. I think that if we're going to build schools there as a school district, I think that we need to annex the properties so that it stays inside of East Baton Rouge Parish. I think that, when you look at the election again, half of the people that live in the incorporated area of St. George voted no. I think that we need to create a public campaign that goes out and identify who those citizens are, and we start annexing them inside of our city, because they are afforded their right to be annexed inside of our city, and they will have the same levies, the same taxes that they have currently right now. But when they break away, those things are definitely going to shoot up through the roof. I think one of the smartest things that former Mayor Kip Holden did was he annexed the entire Mall Louisiana Plaza as well as Perkins Row inside of East Baton Rouge Parish, because he understood that was a taxable base that they could have used in order to prop up the city of St. George. So I think annexation is the key, and I think that we need to create a public campaign to ensure that we can stop it.
Thank you. And for our last and final user-submitted question and our last question for tonight's debate, Mr. Bangel, what is your current profession, and how does that profession prepare you to represent the people of District 5?
My current profession, I'm a business owner. I do legal services with the 19th Judicial District Court. I'm also a political consultant. How it has cultivated me is that I'm able to identify individuals who look for leadership in areas like mine, who understands the role of the position that they're running for. The legal services I do is also the gateway to lowering recidivism. So I'm here as an individual that's able to see the people that are being into the judiciary system, creating programs for these individuals to be able to be matriculated back into the community where they're able to be thriving. And I've actually have partnered up with many companies throughout the East Baton Rouge Parish to work with individuals who have reoffended, who have a background. So I'm very proud of that, being the person that is directly responsible for getting people re-entered back into society, a person that's responsible for making sure students who don't have a GED get a GED based on court orders, being responsible for individuals to get a job, be able to be productive in society, or be that person to monitor the individuals who also are repeat offenders and put them back in a place that they cannot be rehabilitated, put them back in incarceration. So I'm on the direct line of being able to direct these people to mental health services, get them into community housing, and so I'm very proud of being able to do that. And so that's what I do, and again, it has a direct impact on how I feel about how to deal with people and the needs of District 5, because I see real life people every single day. Hey, young man, don't take that plea deal before you realize what type of background you finna get by taking a charge you just said you did not commit. You know, giving that information, letting people know their rights, letting people know that there is a such thing as due process. They have to be able to prove what you did before you admit to something you didn't do because you're tired of sitting in jail because we haven't reformed bail. So there's a lot of things that I do that I think directly correlates with why I think I would be really effective in the seat if the people of District 5 elect me.
Thank you. Mr. Lannis, the same question, and that is, what is your current occupation, and how does that profession prepare you to represent the people of District 5?
Yes, sir. My current occupation is I'm the executive director for the 100 Black Men of Metro Baton Rouge. And if anybody knows anything about the 100, it is the oldest philanthropic black organization inside of our entire city that has been dedicated in moving the lives of young black men across our community, where in fact our motto is, what they see is what they'll be. What we want to do is we want to take young African-American men that may be looked upon like they're going down the wrong path, or looked upon as though they are at risk. And what our promise is this, is that if you give those kids to us in the 6th grade, by the time they hit 12th grade, we're going to have them prepare for college. Not only prepare for college, they're going to have a free scholarship to go to any UL system school that they so choose, or so that their parents so choose. But that's not the only programs that we get the chance to offer. I have the unique opportunity of working with our city leaders every single day. One of the programs that we're talking about right now with Safe, Hopeful, Healthy Neighborhoods with the mayor's office is the Shot Spotters program. When we talk about gunshot monitors, and that's making sure that we're working with local police, with our local police department, and also with the sheriff's department to ensure that we're putting our best foot forward in terms of walking campaigns where we're actually going out inside of these communities and talking to people on an everyday basis. Just 2 months ago, I was able to go inside of the 70806 community with Mayor Pro Temp Lamont Cole, and we were able to bring, for the first time, fiber optic technology to that community, a community that has been long forgotten about. Nobody ever thought to bring them fiber optic 5G technology, and that's the kind of things that I get the chance to do every single day with the 100. But the most promising thing that I get to do, is to look a young black man in his face and look at his mom and give them a promise and a commitment that if you give them a chance with the 100, we can change their lives. But you have to take the first step. If you're willing to take the first step, we're going to take the rest of them for you.
Thank you. Again, we want to thank you for your time to our candidates that chose to be here tonight. We understand that you could have been doing many things, but you all made a sacrifice in order to be here. You took time out from your campaigning because you felt that it was important for you to be able to exchange your ideas and allow them to be able to be received by the people of District 5. There have been many comments that are still coming in, and we do apologize to those whose questions couldn't all be answered. Some of them are still coming in right now. We're sorry, Kayla, we just got your question, but maybe our candidates will be able to see that in the chat, or maybe you can feel free, and I'm sure I'm putting you on the spot, send a message and our candidates will be glad to answer those questions. And there are several more for those who have viewed. We can do the same thing for you as well. Be sure to find these gentlemen and be able to allow them an opportunity to continue to express their platform. Again, we thank you all for being here. And just for the record, every candidate who is qualified for this election was notified and informed about this in a timely manner, and options were given in order to make accommodations for everyone. And it's unfortunate that everyone was not here, but still this platform was given to everyone equally in order to exchange ideas and to be able to inform the people of District 5 so that they can make an accurate and the best vote for themselves in order to represent them on the Metro Council. We thank you all for participating tonight. And before we get out of here, we would just like to once again allow each of you a closing statement, 2 minutes before we get out. Mr. Bangel, you're first.
I want to first thank Prophetic Voices for hosting this debate. I believe that our community deserves someone to represent them that understands the needs of the community, that understands how to lead during these tough times. I have shown my commitment to this community time and time again with different programs and different things I've done in this community to earn the trust of those individuals in this community. I ask that you look at my background. I ask that you look at my education. I ask that you look at the things that I have and I want to offer to you to be your litmus test to determine who should be able to represent you. I ask that you hold me accountable. I ask that you also hold me to all the commitments that I'm making to you tonight. I promise to be accessible. I'm committed to making sure that I'm open and honest. I'm committed to making sure that I'm not going to tell you something that I can't do. I'm making sure that I'm working full time. I'm working every single day on the needs of the people of the community. And I want you to also understand that your voice is always my vote. There's no political powerhouse that can control me. There's nobody that's going to be able to pull my strings. There's nobody that's going to be able to convince me to go against the interests of my community. I'm from this community. I know how it is to be in poverty. I know how it is to get it out of the bud, like the young folks say. So I'm going to offer my services to the community every single day. But I'm also going to hold my community accountable too, to expect more and want more. Don't expect people to buy your votes, buy book sacks and school supplies and dinners. I want you to hold people accountable and make sure people have the requisite education and the requisite requirement to serve you in the best interest. I have all those different things. I humbly ask for your prayers, humbly ask for your support, and humbly ask for your vote on March the 26th. Early voting starts March the 12th. Number 9 on your ballot, and I ask again for your prayers and your support. Thank you so much again for everybody that attend. Thank you so much for all the questions that have been asked tonight, and I look forward to hearing more and more conversation as this election gets towards the end. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. And Mr. Lanus, final comments. You too have 3 minutes.
Thank you. District 5 residents, if you're listening to this, I want you to hear me clear. I hear your voices. I've been hearing your voices for a really long time. Everything that you all been going through, I've gone through it with you. I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. I know what happens when we don't have a strong voice that can lead us. And I know for a lot of you, you feel as though you're tired of saying the same things over and over. And for a lot of you, you may be tired of the fight. This is what I offer to you tonight. Let me be your voice. If you feel like you're tired of fighting, let me put it on my back and let me go and fight and strive for you every single day at Metro Council. One thing I can promise you, I will not placate to anyone to try to use politics to get over what the needs are inside of our community. I will always be steadfast in making sure you have the most up-to-date information that comes out from City Council. I will always make sure that I show up every single time, and I will always make sure that our community comes first. What does that mean to come first? That means whenever contracts are coming up, we have the first right of first refusal. That means that whenever we're talking about businesses coming inside of our community, that means that we're dialoguing about it first rather than people telling us what's best for us. Because this time around, District 5, our voices are going to truly be lifted to a place that we've never seen before. I see the potential that we have. When other people ride throughout our district, they may say, they don't have housing, they don't have hospitals, they don't have adequate schools, but I'm here to tell you now, in the next 10 years, we can change this community in a way that we have never saw before. And it starts with a vision, it starts with an idea, and it starts with somebody who has the fight and the wherewithal to get it done. You believed in me on the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, where I won over 65% of your vote. I'm asking you to do the same thing again, because if you believe in me, I promise you, I will believe in you and we will win together like we have before. I'm the only candidate inside of this race that actually has a proven track record of getting things done. I don't just use lip service, I use my feet and I use my hands, and most importantly, I use my voice to advocate for you every single day. I'm the only person inside of this race right now that has not been denied by the citizens of District 5. The only person that is running for this seat right now that has not lost a chance to run for this seat. I'm asking for your prayers, and I'm asking for your vote. But most importantly, I'm asking you all to hold me accountable every single day when you give me the job. My name is Darius Lannis. I serve as your East Baton Rouge Parish School Board member, and I'm currently running to be your next District 5 City Councilman. I'm number 11 on your ballot.
Thank you all once again. Very heartfelt thank you, and I can't say it enough to the candidates who took time out of their busy schedules to be able to appear here tonight for the healthy exchange of ideas. Again, we thank Prophetic Voices, the faith-based nonprofit organization who sponsored this debate. It is very imperative for Prophetic Voices, for the people to be able to accurately and in the best interest of themselves make a decision for those that represent them. And that is the reason that Prophetic Voices has provided this equal platform for all candidates to take advantage of in order to voice their concerns, their ideas, and allow the voters to be able to get the best representation of each candidate, so that on early voting March 12th and on actual election day on March 26th, that they will be able to make the best representation for who's going to represent District 5 and operate in their best interest. Again, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. We did wish that all of the candidates would be here, but we are grateful for those that did choose to come in order for the citizens of District 5 to be able to accurately hear what they have planned. Mr. Bangel, thank you so much for appearing. Mr. Lannis, thank you so much. We wish you both and all the candidates in the race good luck as you continue to seek to serve the citizens of District 5. I have been your moderator tonight, Tony King, on behalf of Prophetic Voices. We thank you all who have joined us online, and you all have a blessed night. Thank you.
Thank you.